Hey, you guys, it's Jenny from the church. So, as you know, we're in 21 days of prayer and fasting. And today is day 14, and our topic is to pray for a spirit of brotherly love and compassion that we would show to others, that they would know the kind of love that we have. So, immediately, what came to my mind was this time I visited Jo-Ann Fabrics. So I go to the line and, I've got this idea in my mind. If you've ever been to Jo-Ann Fabrics, you know that you go up to the cutting line, you wait in line with your bolt of fabric and you're ready to cut it. And there is this lady in front of me. So I already have in my mind what I want to do for that day, how the project's going to go. And so I have my bolt of fabric, and this lady in front of me has this cart of 10 fabrics, all clearanced, and she's kind of getting on my nerves, to be totally honest. And the gal behind her, who's checking her out, who's cutting it, is super sweet. And this lady with the 10 fabrics, who's in my way, is being belligerent to the clerk. And I'm looking at her like, dude, that's not very nice. And so she's being belligerent, and she's being kind of rude and short and cutting her off and not very loving at all. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. This clerk responded with the kindness of Christ, and she said, "Can I take the time and pray for you?" Right in the middle of a big line of people wanting to get in and get out. And the lady broke down in tears and said, "Yes, I need prayer. I'm having a rough day. So-and-so just died. It's not going well in my life." And this lady got to share the love of Christ, even though this other gal was mean to her. And so it just reminded me that we need to show the love of Christ to people, even though they're not showing it to us. Which brings me to the Bible verse that kind of came to my mind, which is Luke 6:32 through 36. It says, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies and do good to them and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father in heaven is merciful." So people who need God's love are often the most prickly. They're not nice. They're not going to give you a smile. And it's our job as followers of Christ to give them that smile, to give them that love, to intercede and kind of go against what our flesh wants to do and do what God would have us to do. So everyone can show God's love. The lady at Jo-Ann Fabrics, she was cutting fabric. That was her job. And she interjected God's love and God's grace and God's mercy right where she was, behind the counter. It didn't matter. She didn't have to be a pastor. She didn't have to be an evangelist. She was just there to demonstrate and to show God's love. In any job, we can do this at any time, to the mailman, to the girl at Jo-Ann Fabrics. It just really touched me. And so everywhere that we go, we can be God's love. We can be God's hands and show the compassion and that brotherly love. And so this is a trained thing. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this gal that responded in this way wasn't always like this. She had to train her mind to respond with the mind of Christ, to bring every thought captive in obedience to Christ. So I'm sure her flesh wanted to respond with, "I don't like you. You're mean. Get out of my line." But instead, she responded with God's love and God's grace and God's mercy. And that woman was touched. She left changed that day at Jo-Ann Fabrics. So I would encourage you, and I'm encouraging myself, to stop where you are and to look around you at those who need God's love and God's compassion, and to give it to them when they don't deserve it, just how God gave us love and compassion when we didn't deserve it.